Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another one. This is episode 14 of the Tim Talks podcast, and a summer is officially on us. It's the first proper warm day. We've had a good few nice days in the past, but it's proper, beaten down. Not too sunny today. We've had a couple sunny days in the past, but to me, boiling. Weather is warm, 20 degrees, it's cloudy enough, but it's nice. And yeah, it really, year I was starting today, it really does feel like, officially underway with summer, which is great to see. You just love to see it, to be honest. So, what we're going to talk about today in this episode? That is a good question. Probably going to be an off-the-cuff episode. Actually, no, I do have something to talk about, so I will get into that now. But yeah, I guess we'll just get into it. Great to see summer upon us. Today, I'm going to be talking about the New York subway. It has nothing to do with summer or whatever. But I was thinking last episode, it's another train system. Another interesting train system to talk about. Another one I'm not too familiar with. But of course, it's got that sort of iconic, name around the world. Of course, everyone's seen the New York subway before. Everyone's seen it in movies and stuff. For Spider-Man, it had a scene with it in it recently. I'm sure there's countless other movies. But yeah. It's a sprawling subway, mainly through Manhattan, also the Bronx, Brooklyn, Staten Island as well. It's a ferry to there, Queens, maybe not the Bronx. I'm not sure about the Bronx, but yeah, it does have the Bronx in it. So basically, all 5 boroughs get covered within this system, and it's iconic. It's not the most iconic compared to the London Underground, but I would say it's just below that in my opinion. And it's got 36 lines and 28 services, so it's quite extensive, I will be honest. And I'm not too familiar with basically all of these systems. Well, with the London Underground, I had some sort of familiarity with it, but for this, it's really hard for me to distinguish these guys. We got the BIND, we get the BMT. I'll run through the name that they give them. The 2nd Avenue line, the 4th Avenue line, the 6th Avenue line, the 8th Avenue line, 42nd Street shuttle, 63rd Street line, the 63rd Street line again. This time going, I guess, to a different borough. The Archer Avenue line, the Astoria line, the Brighton line, the Broadway 7th Avenue line, the Canarsie line, the Concourse line, the Crosstown line, Culver line, Dyer Avenue line, Eastern Parkway line, Flushing line, Franklin Avenue line, Fulton Street line, Jamaica line, Jerome Avenue, Lenox Avenue, Lexington Avenue, Myrtle Avenue, Nassau Street Avenue. There's one in Dublin as well, cool. The New Lots Avenue, Nostrand Avenue, Pelham line, Queens Boulevard, Rockaway line, Sea Beach, West End, and White Plains. And the thing is that there are so many lines in New York. Obviously, the way New York works is there's avenues which run, I guess, one direction, and then you have the streets themselves running the other direction. So it's a lot more grid planned than the London one, and the way that London is probably a bit more authentic. But one thing I will note is that a lot of these were opened very long ago, such as the early 1900s and the late 1800s, whilst some of them were opened in the 80s, and also 2017 was the newest one. So I guess what would the easiest way of tackling this system be? I suppose I could go by borough, probably be an easier way to doing it, but I could also just go by lines and be like, oh, this is here, this is here, this is here. Yeah, but I guess the primary trunk lines are probably the main ones to talk about, which there are a few of. So the first one is the 8th Avenue line, and it's using a vivid blue as its color tone. I'm not sure what a service bullet it is, but there's 3 of them for this one, A, C, and E. I'll try and find some information I have here, but basically they have 2 to 4 tracks and 31 stations for this line, and each station, there's so much to tackle, and they're all streets and stuff like that. I would be honest, the New York subway is quite a, what's the word, compared to London. London's simple and nice, and even though it's big, it's easy to tackle. New York is very, for me anyways, looking at it, not very user friendly. I'm looking at a map here. Just the way everything just looks on the page, it's very complicated. It's like a patchwork of lines and information, and it's sometimes hard to get my head around. But maybe we'll look up guide and we'll get a clearer idea, because I'm not too sure. On this is the official website here. There's live subways, subway map, night subway, winter, etc., etc., etc. Buses, railroads, etc., bridges and tunnels. And I guess if we're going to look at a map, we have a live subway map. So I guess we'll start with the 1, because the 1 runs all the way from the top of Bronx right down through the side of Manhattan to the center of Manhattan and then to the very bottom of Manhattan. So you are getting those iconic places like Times Square getting covered, Penn Street Station, all the way down to the very bottom, the financial districts of New York, just where New York ticks, I feel like. But it also does have that whole, thing where it does cover, the main sort of boroughs of the Bronx and Manhattan, and through Harlem or whatever. But then it also goes past Central Park, kind of not too far from Central Park. There's also a handy little yellow line which runs from near the upper middle of the line all the way to the airport, which is LGA Airport, which is, I guess, an airport in Queens. And New York is so vast and big that it's really handy having these connections. One that's further out is JFK Airport. That's one I've heard of, very iconic. That's actually a jaunt out of New York, pretty much, out of Brooklyn at Queens, and really far away. I didn't think it was that far away, but I guess, you know what, it's nearly an hour outside New York. That's the crazy thing about New York, is all this big area, and it's quite spread out for some of these spots. So that's the first line I will be talking about, and yeah, it was interesting to hear about that. This website is actually very handy. Looking at number 2, very much similar, except this one goes straight up very north of Bronx, like really north. We're talking nearly out of the state by the looks of it, and then it keeps its way through a lot of Greenland of Bronx, which there seems to be a lot of parks, and then very similar route through Manhattan. But the difference is it goes through Wall Street, very iconic, crossing just at the bottom of New York. This would be easier if we had actually videos of this, but crosses straight into Brooklyn around Clark Street, and then continues on past a nice park. I'm not sure what this park is called. They don't give names for parks here. Through Nostrand, and then it forks off to Flatbush, Brooklyn Avenue, and then New Lots. So basically it goes all the way through Brooklyn by the looks of it. So cool. I think that's an even more extensive version of 1 that I had already. Then we got 3. 3 is the same thing, very same thing, except it doesn't stretch through as much of the Bronx. So there's the difference, I guess, and probably just goes closer to Central Park. But these 3 orange ones, they're basically the same in a way. They just have slightly different lengths. Number 4 is through the Bronx, through Manhattan, but this time it takes a more right-sided approach through Manhattan on the right side of Central Park. Central Park, of course, being that iconic big park in New York. It's very iconic. It's this big long rectangle. It's got a zoo in it, I believe. So it kind of reminds me of Dublin Zoo being in Phoenix Park, but I feel like Central Park is just probably way more iconic. Obviously, Central Perk being in Friends, everyone's heard of that. Then, of course, it has Grand Central Street, which is obviously home to Grand Central Station, I'm pretty sure. It goes down, same spot, into Brooklyn. This time, it probably heads a bit more north. Brooklyn itself has this huge big bay, lots of green area, and like Manhattan has that big bay outside of it, Brooklyn is actually quite a large landmass, I will be honest. Queens is inland. It also has bay. It's kind of water wherever you go in New York, I'll be honest. But it's such a huge landmass, much bigger than Manhattan, but probably a lot more suburban. And Staten Island is sort of off in distance. Number 5, also that green line. Similar to what we had with number 2, I think, with the fork in Brooklyn. This is what it has, but it also stretches up to Bronx and has a fork in the road. So you see this a lot with London, where they have those little forks. But there you go, another one of those. Number 6, people, and it's just Manhattan, but also the Bronx, but very much the east side of the Bronx, up to Pelham Bay Park, which is basically hugging another bit of water, very, very much up in New York. The geography in New York is so interesting. There's like inlets everywhere, and so it seems like this is like an inland lake by the looks of it, or I don't know what you call it, maybe a fjord by the looks of it, because it's very much that style. That was number 6, I believe. Number A, letter A even, is blue now. We've done green, we've done orange, now blue. This one stretches through Manhattan, then into Queens, but then it goes up a bit. And then when it meets JFK Airport, it goes straight down 5 o'clock, I guess that would be, southeast, down through Broad Channel, which is actually an island, and then onto the beach. Is this Long Island? I think this is Long Island, and it's a beach street. So this is the one you get if you want to go to the beach, I suppose. It also has connection with JFK, and so I think it's pretty handy for, obviously, if you're really in the mood for getting to the airport or going straight to the beach. The A train, so really long, fairly useful. Obviously, it's weird because a lot of these stations seem to repeat themselves in Manhattan. This one goes straight by Central Park, though. They all just go down different lines, you get me? Like, in straight lines, but, like, in different places. But they do branch off to different places, like the odd time, like this one. So, don't get me wrong, I think it's called Long Island. It's a beach area on New York. So, I don't know how quality of that beach would be. Given that it's in the New York area, I think this is near Long Island by the looks of it. Long Island is obviously that big portion of New York that's sort of stretching out into the sea. Yeah, I think it's the very bottom. It's actually near Long Beach. It's called Rockaway Beach, so that's quite interesting. So that's A. Then we got C. C train is just in Manhattan and Brooklyn, so nothing to comment on there. It's actually a lot shorter. It doesn't even get to JFK Airport. Then there's the E train. The E train goes way more north in Queens. It touches on the JFK Airport, touches on the LGA Airport, and is very much, bottom of Manhattan to the middle of Queens, and it's stretching out quite a bit to Jamaica Street and Jamaica Center, Parsons Archer in Queens. So that's quite cool. Then we got the SIR, a SIR. I don't know what you want to call it. It's just Staten Island, people. Staten Island Rail, I'm guessing, and it just goes along, not the coast of Staten Island, but just kind of in the Midlands of Staten Island. Staten Island is a long, bullied part of New York, and I'm not sure why. I don't understand it really. It's just suburbs, I'm guessing, and so it's quite unique to New York. But I guess it does maintain its New York status, even though being quite far away from New York compared to, say, parts of New Jersey, which just happen to straddle, the border, like Newark, which are very close to New Jersey itself, or to New York, but it's actually, no way connected with the New York, train system, underground. What am I saying? Subway. Yeah, I'm looking at a map here. It's very much just green, a few little apartments and stuff like that. So that's the SIR. But comment below from Staten Island and tell me what you think of it. Is it great? Is it not? I don't know. G, which is a light green, and this goes through Brooklyn. It goes up to Queens. Kind of maintains itself inland, away from that sort of Manhattan coastal area, or Brooklyn coastal area. But yeah, it does seem to be okay. Like, it doesn't seem to go too much in terms of length. But apparently, this is density, I suppose. It does seem to be handy. And we got the Purple 7, which goes from the Midlands of Manhattan across a different bridge over to Queens this time. I don't know where the border between Queens and Brooklyn is specifically. It seems to be sort of this big landmass. But then it heads up past LGA, up to Flushing Main Street, way up sort of northeast. Then we have B, which is another orangey. Is this a different orange? Yeah, it's a different orange. That was more of a red we saw earlier. This is a proper orange. Straight from the Bronx, down through Manhattan, right by Central Park on its left side, down through a bridge quite near the bottom, but not quite, in Manhattan, then onwards, through a few streets, Prospect Park in Brooklyn, all the way down to Brighton Beach in the bottom of Brooklyn. Not quite at Long Island, but just within Brooklyn itself's own beach area. Brighton Beach, never heard of it, but there you go. You've got a New York aquarium there. So much going on in New York, it's quite crazy. I'd say, the distances are sometimes a bit intimidating by the looks of it. But yeah, Brighton Beach, there you go. Next up, what was that, B? Was that B? Did we look at D yet? No, we didn't look at D. D, very similar, up through Manhattan, up through Bronx. This one's incredibly long, all the way down to Coney Island. Coney Island, I know, is pretty iconic. I've heard some stuff about that. Coney Island, there's a Coney Island ferry, I believe, in existence. Coney Island is sort of like the famous sort of fun fair attraction in New York. Huge thing. I'm sure it was in GTA at some stage. I just think I vividly remember seeing that. It's a residential neighborhood that morphs into a relaxation and entertainment destination. Yeah, just famous with locals and tourists. It's got circus. What more can you want? Very much embedded into the zeitgeist, into the culture of America. Fair play. Next up, we got Orange F. This one similarly. Wait, is this the same as? Did I just cover D or F? I can't remember. It's giving me the warning sign. It is. F looks similar, except this one goes straight into Queens at the top. It just does a fucking 90-degree angle and goes straight for Jamaica Street. We've seen Jamaica Street come up earlier. There you go. Now we got the Orange M. This one's sort of like a little C from Queens into Brooklyn. Very much covering like nearly a circle area, and very much a sort of suburban job. Then we got a Brown J. Brown J starts in Broad Street in the bottom of Manhattan, kind of works his way up a tiny bit, then goes 90 degrees, goes into Brooklyn, says, hello, I'm going to go straight to Queens. It goes for a while on this sort of 45-degree north job, and it goes straight to Jamaica Center, where they all apparently end. I don't know. Very much top of the suburbs now with Brown Z. Brown Z. Brown Z. This one, same exact line. So I don't know why they brought it up twice. Or am I getting confused? Looks the same. J. Z. Jay-Z? Maybe they're trying to do a joke there about Jay-Z. I don't know. He's a Brooklyn fan, right? N. This is Yellow N. Yellow N starts up here. Near LGA Airport. Not quite, lads. There's a little V, little fork in the road at 96th in Manhattan and Queens, going down straight through, crosses into Brooklyn, goes near the bay, but then cuts in and makes its way to Coney Island. Apparently everyone loves going to Coney Island, so they've just connected Coney Island with like 50 lines. How does this work? Why is this so weird? Why are they all connected different stations? I don't know, but apparently this is how they like to do it in New York. Then we got 96th Street going through Times Square. Times Square, I guess we didn't comment on that because that's in Manhattan, and that's fairly iconic. I mean, that's probably the most iconic thing I can think of in New York, apart from Statue of Liberty and Empire State Building. It's up there, probably top 5, top 3. Times Square, all the big screens. It was in pretty much any famous New York movie. The one I can think of pretty clearly is, of course, Spider-Man, because Spider-Man is quite dominated by New York. I think it's when J. Jonah Jameson pops up on the screen, the big screen. It's basically what we have in Piccadilly Circus, but on drugs. It's just got so many screens, so many taxis going by, obviously, and obviously there's a big square in the center, so a lot of people doing random stuff, being weird. New York's a crazy place, and just a lot of culture and just everything mixing together. People are mental there. It's just mad. It's madness to look at. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. You gotta be a thick skin to live in New York. So we just gone past Q. Now on to Or. I wonder where Or goes. Queens, cuts through Queens into Forest Hills, gets into Manhattan, goes down from its 90-degree angle, then cuts down at the bottom, goes into Borough Hall in Brooklyn. I feel a bit of a New York accent there. Borough Hall, I don't know what the hell that was. And then goes down to Bay Ridge. Interesting, people. I keep saying interesting, but it's the main order of the day. Another warning sign on W. I don't know why they keep warning signs. Very similar one here. It goes through cuts in from Queens into Manhattan, then back into Brooklyn, and goes down to 86th Street. All these routes seem kind of similar to me, but anyways, this is a black one. It's called L. And it goes from Manhattan, sort of lower quarter down there, 14th Street, over straight 90-degree angle to Bedford Avenue, goes to Myrtle Wyckoff Avenue, then cuts down a bit bottom right, goes into Rockaway Paceway in Brooklyn. Getting to the end, people. Don't worry. S is a tiny little train going from 42nd St. Port Authority bus and terminal into Times Square and then to Grand Central Station. So I guess that's just handy for like people who want to get that train. It's just an easy way of getting it, I guess. Grand Central Station is also very iconic within the New York system. Grand Central Station is just, where a lot of those big intercity trains meet. Of course, the thing about New York is, though, planes are way more common, so I guess the airports will be much more connected. This is more of an historical thing, just saying, like, look, all these people getting trains. Obviously, the train system in America used to be good, now it's not, and now planes are big, now cars are huge, so that's how it is nowadays. But again, it's still a very important building. It's got a big, huge green ceiling, and it's got these large, golden, circular windows, and it's great to look at. Fair play. Next up, we have SF. This is another short, tiny line from Prospect Park to Franklin Avenue within Brooklyn. It has Botanic Garden there. Never heard of it, but hey, that seems kind of cool. It's a cool little line. And we have SR. SR runs from Broad Channel to Beach Street within sort of the Long Island area. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, they're my stations. Look, this is a really handy website, to be fair to it. And you know what? It made it look less imposing when I seen it like that. New York is a big place. There's a lot to it. Even if I were to look at the different boroughs, they all have their different identities. Manhattan, home to Empire State Building. The iconic Hell's Kitchen. That was in obviously Daredevil. You got Central Harlem. You got the financial district. The two towers. That's the Lord of the Rings. The Twin Towers that get knocked down. You got all that sort of iconic New York identity really is home here. Spiraling, everything like that. Then you get to Brooklyn. It's a bit more, gritty. It's a bit more in your face. It's it's got that sort of attitude to it that obviously Manhattan has, but it's more it's more sort of run down. It's more sort of we are Brooklyn. You know what I mean? I just feel like there's something about Brooklyn that's just interesting. And the street pattern, the grid's sort of weird in Brooklyn because it sort of chops and changes at different angles, and it's very weird to look at, but also cool at the same time. And then you got Queens. Queens is another suburb of. It's home to John F. Kennedy Airport, and it's a big suburb. It's even bigger than Brooklyn. It's kind of the same land mass as Brooklyn, but it's bigger. And it's got Flushing Meadows Corona Park. I don't know what that is, but apparently it's something. I think it's where the tennis takes place. Then you got the some of the beach area, Rockaway Park, Long Beach extends out, which is not part of this New York area, but Long Beach is there. But this is kind of the start of the whole, suburbs. Obviously, Brooklyn, it's a pretty imposing area as well. Next up we have Staten Island, which is so weird that that's this part of New York, but it is. I'm not sure the story behind it. Obviously, New Jersey nearly feels more like part of New York than this does with Hoboken, but Hoboken isn't even part of it. As you can see, Hoboken sticks out from New Jersey, and it's like, I want to be in New York, but it's not. It's Jersey City. But yeah, obviously, as I said, this has botanical gardens in it. Looks very nice, very interesting, and cool to those guys. And then, of course, we got Queens. We did mention Queens, Brooklyn, New York, Staten Island. What are we forgetting about? We're forgetting about one of them? There's a ferry that runs there. People... The Bronx. The Bronx is like the forgotten one. It's at the north end of New York. It's there. It exists. It's the Bronx. Home to another botanical gardens. Also the Bronx Zoo. This place is forgotten about because... I don't know. It's nearly north of New York, nearly Yonkers, all that sort of area, and oh my god, it's got such an interesting look New York does because Brooklyn and Queens are basically on an island themselves with Long Beach, and the rest is sort of divided into these sort of like weird peninsulas in New York. You got the Hudson River, huge, very thick, wide river running up to upstate New York. Then you got New Jersey on the left, which actually is divided into a really weird border where it's New Jersey and then it's not when you go up higher, and then when you go lower it's New York again. It's weird, but it's quite a crazy looking map. I don't know how they developed that in the past, but it's just it's such a weird place to look at, and I always questioned it because like London makes sense. They just spiraled out from the middle, and it was just like, this is all London City now. We take all these different places and all in London, but it was like weird because with New York it was like such weird administrative decisions they made, and that's how it happens all over the US. It's just a thing that happens. Ibscat delves more into this on his own channel, his YouTube channel there, but just some weird stuff occurs in New York in general. So it's really fitting that they have weird borders like that. But that's pretty much my New York sort of deep dive. And yeah, so I would recommend checking out Ibscat. I've mentioned him before, but yeah, great guy. Interesting enough. I mean, flying saucers, what the hell am I doing? But yeah, look, it's great to see New York being, what it is. But yeah, new topic for conversation. I have been doing a lot of gaming lately on Tim Talks Gaming. You should definitely check it out. stuff I've been up to. I've been playing Far Cry 5, which has been really good fun. The thing is, on my gaming channel, I've been playing a lot of different games, but I haven't been playing like something like mad, like a lot. I've just been playing like a couple hours a day of different games each time. So I started with Football Manager 2018, then I did Sporkle, then I did Guess the Language, which are a few different things. Then I did FIFA 21, then I did Golf with Your Friends, Logo Quiz, Tierless, I did that twice, FIFA 21 again. I did Fallout 4, Star Wars Complete Saga, great game, NBA 2K21, Euro Truck Simulator 2, and Far Cry 5. And then I have another channel called Best Bits, which is where I upload like highlights from these adventures, escapades in the games. And so far, I've only got a jump scare video and a video where I was drinking tequila while playing, and I had a bit of a strong experience with the tequila, so that's interesting. But you can go check them out. I'll get more of those best bits. I think they'll be more accessible from like a new audience perspective. But again, if you want to see where those moments came from, you can go and check out the full videos on Tim Talks Gaming. And I'm not sure whether it'll be doing series on one game in particular or keep experimenting with different games. I know Football Manager 21 came out, so I might give that a go at West Ham. And then there's of course Valheim, which is actually on my computer, and it's actually a pretty highly rated game, I'll be honest. Quite a tough game though, all the same. Then there's of course Sim Cities games. There's City Skylines, which I have, which is quite tough to get into. Then there's Civ 5. So there's other types of games, board games out there. Risk is good fun, and I have Fortnite. I have Valorant, which is an online like shooting game. So lots of different types of games, lots of genres, lots of stuff out there. But it's interesting. We'll see what we get into. But yeah, I'm still experimenting with games. I'm not really the biggest gamer in the world, but I'm still looking around and going, I could certainly do more with this, with the cool game PC I have. And the time I have on my hands. So there's that. But yeah, I'm sure I will do more in the future, to be honest. And yeah, what am I saying here? Yeah, but basically, yeah, that's life at the moment. I actually lost my debit card, so I was going to get Full Manager, but again, I don't have my debit card, so I might have to nick it off somebody else and then pay them back. We'll see. But it's really annoying at the moment because, yeah, I guess life is kind of not much is happening at the moment, but I will be working next week. Basically, I'm working as an architecture technologist, I told you that before, in college student-wise, and I'm looking for work next week. So I will be doing that with my uncle. 4 days a week, starting on Monday to Thursday. Then I have the weekend off, which is nice, plus Friday. So I think I was going to get work for like the weekend, but I was like, no, you know what? I'll keep that free. See how this goes during the week. I might be tired, so it might be just good to take the time off. Enjoy, hanging out with friends, because you want to do stuff with the money that you have. You get me? And so I think that'd be interesting to do. And then obviously, working during the week, getting experience, hopefully getting paid for it. Yeah, I think it's interesting. You can never have too little experience or too much experience, you get me? I certainly haven't been doing too much recently. So sort of getting myself out there and just doing stuff, different stuff, always good. But what was I going to say? But yeah, the weekend being tomorrow, obviously I'm going to go out, celebrate, drink with people, enjoy myself a little bit. And you know what? COVID's, obviously I've been, going away. The 30-year-olds getting the vaccine, so it's very much like, let's get this done, let's get this over with, let's get this out of our heads. Yeah, most people are like me, not too worried about the COVID right now because all the vulnerable people have got the vaccine, right? So what have we got to worry about really? Chances of dying at a young age, very low, so it's good. In my opinion, good. And I was thinking, why not organise a holiday with my mates for the summer? So that should be cool. Something I might do. Go somewhere in Ireland. I don't think I'll be going abroad, to be honest. But yeah, somewhere in Ireland will be nice. Just get out there. Couple of nights, weekend. It might be hard now finding a hostel or a Airbnb. Probably be a hostel, lads, to be honest. And then just do something there. That'd be cool. Drinking, whatever. Just hanging out, because you won't regret those times you spent with your mates. That's my rule of thumb. That's my rule in life. You can regret, just working all your time, but you can't regret this.
Do you want anything from DF?
Noodles.
Noodles. Tim's
Beef.
looking for noodles.
Beef noodles?
Beef noodles?
Beef noodles?
Just chicken, he says.
Oh,
Chicken? Yeah, chicken. Fine.
Good. Sorry about that. But yeah,
What flavour?
Chicken.
What flavour? What flavours have they?
Chicken Singapore, no?
Singapore. Singapore.
Yeah, but anyways, yeah, I guess that's how things go. Yeah, you don't regret spending a lot of time with your mates. You know what I mean? You regret not spending more time with your mates. But the one thing you do regret is spending out working and making money. And again, I haven't been working, obviously, but working, saying, "Oh, lads, I have all this money and I haven't spent it." You know what I mean? When you're dead, you're not gonna be like, "Oh my god, thank God I have all this cash all stored up." No, you're gonna be like, "Oh shit, I should have spent that. I'll enjoy myself." So you know what? That the money doesn't stay with you when you're dead or whatever. So what's the point of having it? That's the thing. Bit reckless. I should be saying, "Oh, saving up and get a house or whatever." Yeah, I suppose you're right. There's always good to have a little bit of savings, but at the same time, you do want to be like, right, I'm not gonna work every day. Feck that. I'm gonna be going out, do my thing. So yeah, that's my opinion. That's my thought process. Maybe it's a bit lazy. Maybe it is. But I always feel like I'm a hardworking person. Anyways, it's just you gotta persevere or whatever and do your thing. So that's sort of been what's been happening lately. What else can I think of? Yeah, so just it's not been too busy, really. Obviously trying to meet up with the mates the odd time. I have a few different mates, different friend groups, so I obviously do make the effort to meet up with them and just say hello and see what the crack is, But yeah, very important. So obviously the Leaving Cert's been going on at the same time, so that's been an interesting little thing. Little side quest for people out there who are in 6th year in Ireland. Basically, it's just the state exams. It's just the main exams for people leaving the secondary school system, entering college. It's before you enter college, and basically that's been going on. So I thought I'd take a little peek at the papers that have just been sat and see what my opinion is on them or whatever, or what's been happening lately, because I haven't done the Leaving Cert in 2 years. So I think people who are a bit older, sometimes it's funny just to look back and see what the paper was like and see, oh, could I answer all this, see how it goes. But anyways, I'm going to take a quick look at the examination papers. We'll start with English paper 1 and work our way through. So 2021, we started with our Leaving Certificate, and that was English. English was the first one up, and it was paper 1. And we'll go for higher level because I said higher level. I got 443 points. I don't know what I get this time around. So the first thing you get is a comprehension test. So me looking through this, I'm not going to read this because I'm just going to see what sort of questions I kind of ask. So based on your reading of text 1, explain 3 insights you gained on the impact of time and memories. Support your answer. That doesn't seem like too bad a question. It's just a recall question, so that's grand. In paragraph 5, John Banville observes the present is where we live, while the past is where we dream. Give your personal response to observations about the writer. So I guess they're looking for a couple, maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs on like your opinions on this statement. That's the sort of question. It's very obviously, interpreted differently by any different person. The present is where we lived, while the past is where we dream. That's a weird one because I would have said the future is where we dream. So that's kind of an interesting twist on that. That's an odd one. I don't know what that means, to be honest. The present is where we live. That makes sense. The past is where we dream. So maybe in the text he explains that better. I suppose having dreams of the past, fair enough. I guess it's a different meaning of the word dreams, like dreaming about something. Like I dream to do this. It's more like I dream about what happened. But I suppose, we do spend a lot of times living in the past a bit, and maybe that's what he's hinting at in that. But I guess there's a lot of interpretations you could have of that. You could bring your own experiences and move them in. That's not too bad a little one. It's very interpretable, which is good with English, because you don't want to be too specific. You want to have your own, bring in your own experiences there. Part 3, identify 4 features of the language of narration evident in the above text and discuss how effectively these features are employed by John Banville to tell the story of his childhood trips to Dublin. Support your response with reference to text. So they're basically, this is a very much slightly a recall one because you have to have studied the languages of narration. You need to know 4 of them. They do tend to sneak in a sort of paper 2 elements into paper 1, such as this one, where they want you to be like, okay, do you remember learning about language of narration and different elements and features in it, and please show us what you've seen in the text, and just discuss how these are employed by John Banville to tell stories of his own trips. So just discuss how he uses them within his text and discuss which ones, identify them basically. And so narration, I'm trying to think, 4 features narration, I guess just elements used. Like, it's fairly simple. I'd imagine, like, maybe he talks about story elements. Like, what would you use a story? Maybe this dialogue there, maybe description. Things like this that are pretty much straightforward. But like, if you study this, that would give you a slight advantage. Like, you actually didn't need to. It wasn't just straight up like, okay, this is stuff that appears. Just write. You don't need to study for this. This one, tiny bit of study there. Question B, 40 marks. You've been invited to write a feature article. And what was the first one about? The first one was like a story by the looks of it. An extract, a memoir. And the second one here is an article from like a magazine, I'm guessing. Prose debut. So it's a story. It's a poet. Reflections again. This is also reflections. So this is... Oh, sorry. Question B is different. It's a feature article to appear in a magazine supplement on the weekend newspaper. In your article, you should reflect on the long-established tradition of erecting statues to celebrate or memorializing people, explore some of the reasons why commemorative statues may be controversial, and give your views on continuing this tradition into the future. This is interesting because, of course, there was a lot of controversy this year about certain statues which represented maybe slavery in the past, which were removed from a hotel but then reinstated. So I guess it's kind of touching on those things like racism, just a historical, where someone was famous, but then of course they sort of may have done something controversial. So that's what that's getting at. I love how topical that is. That does like keeps it fresh in your mind. So it is a topic that maybe Black Lives Matter. You could even get into those sort of things and touch on them, and that's very much in the zeitgeist of today. So then we get into another little prose, and then of course some questions on that. Based on your reading of text 2, explain 3 insights you gained into what links the past and the present and the future of his life. So that's just a recall question. Then we have observe. In paragraph 5, Dorian Nigrifa observes, we may imagine that we can imagine the past, but that is an impossibility. Give your response to the observation by the writer. So then you're just sort of thinking, what the hell is she on about? We may imagine that we can imagine the past, but that is an impossibility. So again, we're talking about the past. I don't know what that means, to be honest. You can't make up your past. I don't know, really, guys. That's really confusing. Maybe people on 6th year could explain what that means. Identify 4 features of the aesthetic use of language. So then again, bit of recall, bit of a understanding of what you studied. Description, metaphors. Maybe it just, how things look again. How you build up your language to make things look nice, I guess. And how effectively these features are employed by Nigrifa to convey her personal experiences, hopes, and dreams. Support your answer with reference to text. Very straightforward. I think all these sort of comprehension ones are not too bad. I mean, you can just interpret them yourself, or just recall simply from the text. Use quotes as much as possible. That's what I tend to do. It just sort of sets a little structure for your answer. Question B, an assertion that other creatures' lives are somehow lesser than human life has promoted extensive debate on social media. In order to join in the online debate, write an open letter to be shared on social media in which you share your position in relation to animal rights, explore some of the issues associated with our current engagement with animals, and outline what you see as a major challenge we face as we share the planet with animals in the future. So it's basically another sort of kind of on topic, not quite on topic as the last one, but fairly on topic discussion on animal rights, because we all know, obviously, animal rights activists have been a lot of animals have been going extinct fairly lately. So I guess that's been a big thing. And of course, it's always been an issue. I do feel like, there's been certain situations there where, I can see there being a cause for concern. And of course, things may be going on a downward spiral there. I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be too much of a... I wouldn't take that one personally if I had to choose, just because my knowledge is probably not as good. I'd probably choose the one on the statue, if anything. But let's see the next one, because it's based on Chadwick Boseman, who delivered a speech in 2018. Of course, he passed away very recently, very tragic. I suppose, that's great to see a speech in this one. I love speeches. I think they're very good. And the first question here is on 3 insights you gained into how Chadwick Boseman was influenced by his time in Howard University. Of course, he's doing a speech on his time in Howard University, so that's quite cool. So that's quite nice. What was I saying there? Yeah, but his speech, you just talk about what you learned from it, basically. and his life and how, you know, his time there obviously had a big impact on him based on just glancing at this article, obviously becoming a big time actor. In paragraph 7, Chadwick Boseman observes purpose an essential element of you. Give your personal response to observation by the writer. So like talking about purpose, talking about like your meaning in life, and so you can get quite deep with that. And identify 4 features of the language of persuasion evident above that. So it's a speech. It's a pretty obvious one. I like speech writing. I like it's very, for me, it's very gripping and very easy to read and very good to get on with. But yeah, I really enjoy it. Emotional, inspiring, and just using your heart really to play with people. Not play with people, but just to get people on your side. It's quite good. Like the Martin Luther King, you know what I mean? Similar. So our final question B here. You have decided to apply for the position of editor of your school's graduation yearbook. Each year, the yearbook has a different theme chosen by the editor. An article by celebrity contributors also included annually. To be considered for the post, you must make a verbal pitch to the graduation committee members in which you promote your preferred theme for the 2021 graduation yearbook. Impress your committee with ideas for its content and nominate your ideal celebrity contributor. Explain your choice to committee members. Write the text for the verbal pitch that you would make. So basically what it is you're editing a yearbooks for a college or whatever, or for 6th year. And there's a bit of a add-in from a celebrity, and you must make a pitch to why you think you should get the job, I guess, and what you think should be in it. That's quite a complicated one. So you basically make a pitch to be this editor. So I guess it would be nearly a speech. But it's like, you know, it's a very much using persuasive language that it's just commented on. Fairly okay. I think, yeah, personally, I probably would have chosen, I guess you get to choose one or the other. 2 questions A and B follow each text. Must answer one question in section 1, either one question A or one question B on one text. So, what? I guess it's A and B from 2 different texts. I probably would have gone the first one. That seemed not too bad for A. And then for B, I would be able to choose that B. So I guess I would have chosen the B there, because I think that's a simple B. The very first one about the statues, I think that's an easy enough one to write about. You could talk about, you know, Black Lives Matter and all that is very much topical. What has been the past 6 months, 12 months. Kind of gone out of the zeitgeist a little bit, but still, it's still fresh in my mind. And then for the A, I probably would have chosen the speech one about Chadwick Boseman, because I think that's a nice one, to be honest, to write about. Then we got composing. Composing, here we have composition of one assignments that appear in bold print below. So you have 7 choices. The first one is an annual trip to Dublin. Write a personal essay in which you reflect on significant birthdays. Significance of birthdays, that's not too bad. Your own and those of birthdays, sharing your thoughts on annual personal milestone. That's a nice one. Next one is write a discursive essay in which you consider the meaning and importance of community. That one's okay. Honestly, I like the one on birthdays, because you can just, I feel it's more connected with me and just yourself, and birthdays are so memorable, so there's so many things you can touch on. Write a short story set in a railway station in which a passenger off the overnight ferry from Fishguard in Wales plays an important role. Your story might be amusing or menacing in tone. This is one thing I think teachers have always said to me, or people, is just stories are so hard to write, and to contain that short story in one place and to complete the story is very much hard in whatever an hour or 2 hours you were given. So I would stray away from this one. This one looks especially weird. So yeah, definitely would stray away. Write a personal essay in which you reflect on the role of humour, fun and laughter in life. Also a good one. Again, I'd say a bit tougher to write about. It's just so vague. And sticking to that one thing, I don't know, that'd be kind of hard for me personally. Comedy is obviously a very big thing. You know, you could talk about comedians or whatever. You could talk about jokes. You could talk about life and whatever, but I think there's kind of limited. Write a fable or fairy tale set in ancient Ireland in which a bee or bee features prominently. Obviously, this is a really hard one. Who knows that much about bees? I personally don't. So I don't know. This would be nearly impossible to write about. Write an article for publication in a popular magazine, unless you were like an expert on bees, which fair enough, you're very lucky. Write an article for publication in a popular magazine about the many and varied colours and sounds that punctuate and surround our daily lives and the impact they have on us. Colours. This is an interesting one. Another one where it's like, you chose to focus on this, such as the bee one. No, this one is hard. Sounds, you could go with music, which could be interesting, could be handy, but apart from that, quite a tough one. And finally, you've been asked to speak as a representative of a national youth organisation at the launch of a major campaign against stereotyping. Write the speech you would deliver. This is an interesting one, because first of all, it's kind of an interesting topic. It's juicy. It's juicy and it could get controversial. But again, kind of specific. I would honestly go for the birthday one. Look, I think a lot of people choose that one. Basically, it's so simple. It's so relatable, and there's not much you can go wrong with there. You can talk about like from your youth to your adult, and just like how you change over time. There's so many different things I think that would easily be talk about. And some of the other ones are just so strange. But anyways, that's my sort of leaving cert rant for this week. I might touch on the other papers, maybe paper 2 of English, paper 1 and paper 2 of maths. I think paper 1 just came out. So, I mean, if you really want to see that, you can. But anyways, I think that's going to be it for me, guys. I'm going to enjoy myself. Watch about the Euros. Euro starts tonight. Happy days. 8 o'clock. Italy versus Turkey. Let's go. I'll see you all later. Good luck.